I'm gonna walk you through all of the items that I pack in my camera bag to take to a photo shoot on an average day. I would say that 90% of the time, it's just myself, the subject, and the client that I'm working with on these shoots. I'm usually a solo team, and I'm working with as much natural light as possible, and if needed, usually just a single light. I'm pretty impressed with the results that I get from my setup, and I've done my best to pack everything that I'll need for a shoot day into a single camera bag. I am a big fan of Peak Design, and I actually used 2 of their camera bags on the regular. The first being the Peak Design Everyday Backpack version 2. This is a 20-liter bag. It can hold a camera body or 2 and usually a few lenses, and that's usually all I need for most of my shoots. There's 2 main ways to access the bag, from the top, where you can stuff stuff in, or controversially, from the side. I know a lot of people aren't a fan of this camera bag because if you forget to zip it up and you go to put it on your backpack, there's a chance that the items in your backpack will fall out of the side of it. I haven't had that issue yet, but if it hasn't happened yet, it will happen in the future. I do wish Peak Design would make a small clamshell style backpack where you could open it and take a look at all your lenses, hopefully in the future. Inside this bag, there is a lot of customization. There are these origami shelves that you can switch around to create little shelves for your lenses. There's a couple pockets throughout the backpack to store your essentials, a decent sized spot for your laptop, and side pockets to hold tripods and stuff, which I regularly attach to the sides. If you don't have enough room inside the backpack, there are some straps to attach things to the outside of the backpack. I'm also a fan of the multiple straps around this backpack. There's one on the top and some on each side, so you can grab this multiple ways. If I'm traveling internationally and bringing a bunch of camera gear, or I have a shoot that requires more gear and I don't have enough space in the smaller backpack, that's where I bring the Peak Design Travel Backpack. I believe this backpack is 45 liters, and this one does open like a clamshell, so I can put the backpack down and get a bird's eye view of everything that's in the bag. There's lots of room inside, and I can bring almost all of the lenses I own, which can be extremely helpful. There's lots of pockets throughout this bag, and it expands if you need a little bit more room when you're traveling. Again, I also appreciate that there are straps on every side of this backpack, so I can grab it out of an overhead bin really easily or shove it under a seat and have a spot to grab it. Like all Peak Design products, this is very heavy duty. It's easy to clean, it is very durable. You're not gonna get any rips or tears in this bag. And if you do, they have an incredible warranty. I've had both these bags for 5 or so years, and I've had minimal issues with both of them. There are 2 main cameras that I shoot primarily everything on, and that's the Sony a7 IV and the Sony a7S III. I'm sure you probably own one of these cameras and you already know all the specs and stuff about it. I really appreciate them. They have been solid. I have not had any issues with either of the cameras. I'm happy with the photos and videos that I get out of both cameras, and I appreciate that there is a dual card slot on both of them. The a7 IV I primarily use for more photo related work, and the a7S III I use for more video stuff. But they both match each other very well, and I shoot photos and videos on both of them. On all of my cameras, I attach Peak Design buttons, and these are really great for attaching a camera strap and removing it quickly. On both of these cameras, I've also attached these wrist straps. I don't actually put them around my wrist. I actually just slide my hand into them and grip my camera. It's really quick for me to just put my hand in here and out. And if they're in the way, they quickly detach. And these are from a company called Dispatch. About 60% of what I shoot is shot on this lens, the Tamron 28-75 2.8. I've had this lens for probably 6 years, and it is starting to fall apart. This grip at the top has loosened up and it is almost off of the camera. I would love to get this replaced, but aside from that, the photos and videos that come out of this lens are awesome. I've been very happy with them. And this covers most of the focal range that I shoot on a day-to-day. Pretty much every photographer and videographer has this lens. It's not that exciting. The other lens that I make sure to bring pretty much everywhere is the Tamron 17-28 2.8. I like shooting wide, so a lens like this is great for that, and shooting yourself and doing YouTube and stuff, it is also a great lens to have for that. I like these Tamron lenses over the Sony versions because they're a little bit cheaper and they're much lighter and I think a little bit smaller, which is great if I'm bringing these around with me everywhere. Another lens I've been using more and more is the Sony 10-18mm f4. It is a crop sensor lens, so if you zoom it all the way out to 10mm on a full frame camera, you're gonna get a vignette look, like you're looking through a peephole, and it's kind of a cool effect for some videos. This is a very wide lens, and it's just a fun one to play with. I haven't used it in too many client shoots, more so for myself, but it's really light and easy to bring around everywhere. I have a bunch of other lenses, mostly prime, but most of those sit at home and are used for specific projects, But one lens that I try to take to every shoot is the Sony 35mm 1.8. 35mm is a great focal length, and I like this lens because of how small it is and how easy it is to pack in a backpack. I went with the 1.8 version over the 1.4 because I don't find I use this lens a ton, and this lens is smaller, and I don't often stop down to 1.4, so this has been great for me so far. Another fun lens to bring around is this 3D printed lens from a company called DispoLens. They disassemble disposable cameras and 3D print a housing to place the lens into so it can attach to your camera, and you get some really neat results from these. And they're really small and they're inexpensive, so it's fun to bring on a shoot to get a different style of photo or video and try something a little bit different. If space allows, I do my best to bring the Fuji X100VI with me to most of my shoots. This camera is so much fun to use. It's great for BTS, or if there's somebody else on your shoot, you just hand the camera to them and it's a pretty easy camera to handle and use. But it's also very powerful, and I'm really happy with the shots that I get out of this camera. The Polar Pro short stash filter lives on the end of this camera. It is a polarizer and bloom filter all in one, so I like the images from this camera specifically, having a little bit of bloom and more contrast in them. It's personal preference, but I really enjoy it on this camera. I've also got Peak Design buttons on here to attach a camera strap really easily, and a thumb grip because this is a small camera and in my hands, I just need a little bit more to grab onto. Now, I haven't seen too many people talking about this camera, but I have a feeling that it's going to be very popular this year, and it's the Sony RX100 Mark VII. I believe this model of camera has been discontinued, and this is the most recent version of it. I love how small this camera is. It's got all of the Sony camera science and S-Log and HLG and all of that built into it. It's got a flip screen, and what I'm most impressed with is that it has a 24 to 200mm lens on this camera. When traveling, this camera has been incredible because you can just slip it into your pocket and get all of the fun of shooting with a Sony camera in such a small package. I think this year is going to be a big year for small point and shoots like this, so I'd like to try a couple more options from some other camera brands like this year. And I'd love if Sony could create a similar camera to this today. This small camera is the Insta360 X3. This is one of the most fun cameras I've used in the past few years. It's difficult to explain why it's so much fun, and you can watch all of the videos and stuff online explaining it, but until you use one and edit the footage yourself, it's just tough to understand. I've really been enjoying this camera to get unique perspectives, and it's really nice to just turn it on and set it and forget it, and it just records every angle at the same time. I also make sure to pack the selfie stick. When you're recording and the stick is attached to the camera, the stick just disappears and it looks like you're using a floating camera. I've got a whole bunch of batteries that I bring with me on every shoot. I am not loyal to Sony batteries. I've got a whole bunch of different brands, and I found that they all pretty much work the same. I keep my batteries in a small zippered pouch. I think this one is from Muji, but it's not the best, but it works. Something I'd recommend with your batteries and actually all of your gear is to get a label maker and to print off your name and contact, email, whatever, so that if you lose your battery or you're on a shoot with a bunch of other people who shoot similar systems to you, you know whose gear is whose. There's been a bunch of times when I've taken other people's batteries, they've taken mine, and this just makes it so much easier. In both of my cameras, I've got Sony Tough Cards. These are really expensive and they're very durable, which is great. I haven't had any issues with them yet, and I tried to buy a large size card so that I can record and shoot a ton of photos on here without having to worry about how much space is on them. Those live in my cameras most of the time. I do have some cards from the past that I've acquired before I got these cards, and those live in this memory card case. I actually need a recommendation for a better memory card case. This is just a no-name whatever memory card case, and I found that when I put these plastic memory cards in them and I try to get them out with my fingernail, the memory cards want to split open because the case is gripping them too hard, and I'm also pulling the other direction. So I actually need a memory case that has foam or something that holds the cards in there but isn't gripping them too tight. If you've got a recommendation, please let me know because I'm gonna lose media and break these memory cards pretty soon. I've got a couple of these camera straps from Peak Design. I've got the leash, and actually I don't remember. I've got a few of them. These are great because they attach and detach from my cameras really quickly and easily, and most of my friends have these Peak Design buttons on their stuff as well, so I can easily put a leash or a camera strap onto their cameras really easily. Like, the ecosystem works very well. I don't always want a camera strap on my camera when I'm shooting, but when I do, it's nice to throw it on really quickly. It's great that these don't really take up any room in your camera bag. You can just toss them in and they're always there. I didn't use lens filters for the first few years of shooting, and now that I've got a couple, they come with me everywhere and don't leave my camera bag. I store them in this little zippered Moment pouch, and in here I've got a Moment 10% Cinebloom, a polarizer from Polar Pro, a Polar Pro 2 to 5 stop ND, and another Polar Pro Short Stash Bloom and polarizer filter. The Short Stash filter usually isn't in the camera bag, it is usually living on my camera. I actually have it on my camera that I'm shooting on right now. Love this filter, go check it out, highly recommend. All of these filters are 67 millimeters in diameter. Almost all of the lenses that I have are 67 millimeters, and if they're not, I use step up or step down rings so that these filters will fit on all of my lenses. The tripod that I use for almost everything is the Peak Design travel tripod. I previously had this tripod in the aluminum version, whatever the less expensive one is, because I wasn't sure how often I'd be using a tripod. As soon as I realized I've been using a tripod a lot, like for shooting talking heads like this and for traveling, I upgraded and got the carbon fiber version, and I've been very thankful that I did. It is very light, it fits in a suitcase, it fits in a backpack, it extends high, it pretty much meets all of my needs. When I got the tripod, I wasn't a fan of this neoprene case that went around the tripod, but after putting this into suitcases and into backpacks, I actually think it's pretty great. It's really slim and it protects the tripod. So my cell phone also comes with me on every shoot. I don't actually pack it into the backpack, but it's in my pocket. Currently, I have the iPhone 16 Pro. This phone has been great for capturing stuff to put on social media, but I've found that I've been putting more and more videos that I've captured on my phone into videos like this and even into client projects, and I haven't heard many people say that they've noticed that, which is very impressive. There's also a few camera apps that I use on the phone, like NomoCam and DazCam. I think those are worth checking out if you want some different photos from your cell phone. If I'm hired for a video shoot that requires audio, there's one of two mics that I'm gonna be bringing with me. The first one is the Rode NTG shotgun microphone. I've been happy with the audio that I get out of this microphone, and I like that it turns on and off when I turn my camera on and off. Ideally, I would like one of those Sony ECM microphones that sits on top of your Sony camera and doesn't use any cables, but this microphone's been working fine so far. I haven't needed one of those, so I'm just holding off to get one of those when I want to treat myself. The other mics that I bring along are the DJI Mic 2. These are pretty great microphones. You can either hold them up to your face and use them like a traditional microphone, or you can attach a lavalier, which is what I'm often doing, and just putting it on my subject. I really like that there's backup internal recording onto the mics themselves. I know I'm gonna encounter a situation in the future where something goes wrong, and that's gonna save my butt, so very thankful for that. I don't use a gimbal that often to shoot video footage, but when I do, I've got the Ronin DJI Mini 3. This gimbal has been much smaller than its big brothers, and it's been able to hold all of the camera bodies and lenses that I've thrown at it, and it's great for getting stable footage. The laptop that I've been using for the past few years is the Apple M1 Max 14-inch. And up until now, this laptop has been great for everything that I've thrown at it. I have a feeling that in the next couple years, I'll need to upgrade to something else. I am eyeing up a MacBook Air, which is technically a downgrade, but those things are getting so powerful, and I would love an even smaller laptop. On the outside of the laptop is a case from a company called Andar. Inside my camera bag, I also make sure to bring an SSD hard drive. Most of my files live on the hard drive of my computer or on my NAS at home, but if I've shot an important project, I do my best to always back up the footage right after I've shot it onto something secure, like an SSD hard drive. This is the iPad Mini 6, and I bring it around with me almost everywhere. I primarily use this thing to write, and I love that it has Apple Pencil support. Apple got rid of their iPhone minis, but I hope that they keep the iPad minis because I feel that this is the perfect size for a tablet. I do my best to keep a charger for all of my devices in my backpack at all times. One of the chargers I've been using recently is this brick from Anker. It's great because I think it's 100 watts power delivery, and it has a USB-A and USB-C slot for charging. It's very small and can power my laptop. I don't need to bring that big power brick from Apple. This does the job and it's much smaller. The other charger I've been using is this very slim charger from Nomad. It's got 2 USB-C slots and can easily power my laptop or any other device I throw at it. And I've got a generic USB-C cable that works great, it carries enough power, and it can even transfer data if needed. Also, in all of my backpacks, I carry these earplugs. You never know when you're gonna need these, whether you're shooting a concert or in the back of a vehicle or on a train or a bus. This is from a company called Matador, and I actually got rid of the earplugs that came in this case, and I got some of those construction worker neon earplugs and just replaced their earplugs with these, because I prefer these ones a little bit more. Sorry, Matador. And last but not least, maybe the most important thing that you can pack into your camera backpack is an air tag. I don't think I need to explain why these are so important, but I've got one in all of my camera bags, I've got one on my bike, all of my pieces of luggage, basically everything that I don't want to lose. These aren't the cheapest things to purchase upfront, but they're gonna last for a long time, and you can swap out the batteries for a couple bucks when they die each year. This is well worth the investment, in my opinion. So that is the majority of the items that I'm gonna have in my backpack for 2025. So 90% of the time, all of those items are gonna be in my backpack. Sometimes I swap out a lens or I'm trying out a different camera body, but I generally use the same items every day for every shoot. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. And if you have any recommendations, I would love to know. I'm always looking for new gear. I'm always looking for new brands, and I love testing stuff out. Anyways, my name's Davey, and thanks for letting me spill the gravy. We'll see you guys in the next video.